Fed up San Francisco businesses vow to stop paying taxes over the homeless problem. So I thought this would be a pretty interesting article to read. So businesses in one of the trendiest sections of San Francisco are threatening to withhold tax payments unless the city takes action in removing homeless people from the area, claiming that their presence has hurt their bottom line. And here's the thing, like the reality is if all of California's businesses and entrepreneurs, right, all the like massive taxpayers within that state basically all stopped paying taxes to that state, the state would have no choice but to actually go and deal with the homeless problem finally. So the Cashier Merchants Association, an umbrella group representing some local 125 businesses in the Castro district, wrote a letter to city officials earlier this month outlining their demands. According to SF Gate, the group wants the city to allocate 35 shelter beds for mentally ill and substance abusing individuals who have taken up residence in the Castro. The city is also being asked to provide monthly data on the services that are offered or provided to the homeless population that has set up shop in the area. Castro businesses, famed for catering to the LGBT community, also want the city to formulate a plan as to what to do with those who refuse services. Dave Carricker, the co-president of the Castro Merchants Association, told SF Gate that if these demands aren't met, the group membership will consider punitive steps, including possibly withholding tax payments. Whatever they're doing isn't working, Carricker, who co-owns the gym with 2 locations in the area, told SF Gate. It isn't leading to a noticeable difference in the conditions in the Castro as it relates to the drug addicted and the mentally ill. Carricker said that since the onset of the coronavirus pandemic more than 2 years ago, quality of life has noticeably slipped in the area. We're just seeing constant vandalism, constant drug use in public, people passed out on the sidewalk, people having psychotic breakdowns, and it's just not something a small business owner should have to deal with, Carricker said. He said that 35 shelter beds would be more than enough to cover the amount of unhoused who are constantly causing issues in the area. That list is typically between 20 and 25 people, so we knew if we got 35 beds, we'd be able to cover those people, Carricker said. Terrence Allen, another co-president of the association and the owner of Cafe Flore and Flore Dispensary, told KTVU-TV that his business's windows have been smashed 11 times and that several homeless people have been living on the streets for more than a decade. Can you imagine living on the streets for a decade? That'd be a really depressing life. Every day we wake up and have to help people on the street, Allen said. We have to clean up feces on the street. We have to clear our people from doorways so we can open our businesses. It's not fair, said Allen. City officials responded to the group's letter by saying that there is no legal mechanism for the city to set aside shelter beds for homeless people from a designated neighborhood. However, we greatly appreciate hearing from community members about what they are seeing on the streets and will continue to work with the Castro community to improve conditions for all in the Castro. According to a joint letter from the San Francisco Department of Public Health and Department of Homelessness and Supportive Housing, Carricker accused city officials of focusing his homeless response to neighboring districts like the Tenderloin, which has had the effect of pushing people into the Castro. But experts said that the homeless who have gravitated to the Castro feel safer there because they identify as LGBTQ. The Castro, which is centrally located between historic areas such as Mission District and Haight-Ashbury, is one of the nation's first ever gay and lesbian cultural and residential areas in the U.S. Feel free to give your thoughts on this. I think the reality of a situation like this is that You might have to stop relying on the government to actually do anything and literally figure out a solution yourselves, right? Because you are in a state that's not really going to be doing anything with the homeless problem, like ever. It's going to continue to get worse. There's going to be even more homeless people as time goes on, and the laws are going to keep on increasingly going to the favor of there being basically more homeless people. So, as residents in an area that have a problem of homeless people, you're going to have to find a solution yourself without relying on the government. Because obviously, they are not doing a darn thing to actually help you guys. So, you got to find a solution. I mean, that's the way that I view it. Because to rely on a state, to rely on a government that specifically doesn't really care about you, what are you going to do? Right? You're going to what? Keep trying to ask them for favors? Or try to find a solution yourself? I would say try to find a solution for yourself. Try to build up the community around yourself and like find some sort of solution, right? Because literally anything is better than trying to rely on the California government to actually do something about the homeless situation. Let's see some of the comments on this. No sympathy for the voters in big cities. Dems have been in power there for 50 years and look what they've done, and they still get reelected. See, this is the thing that I never really understood, especially with California, right? You have so many problems that are increasingly getting worse, and yet people still vote in the exact same people that allowed it to keep getting worse. Is a sanctuary city. Ask any LGBTQ plus minus sign liberal socialist Democrat. They are getting what they asked for from a person called Jimbo. The same should happen here. I've already asked my employer to remove the New York State and New York City withholding tax on my paycheck. I'm not funding their illegal endeavors. The Democrats are nothing but another crime syndicate. Let's see. This person says, I think withholding taxes will convince the powers that be that they must come up with a solution to the problem if they can't set aside beds for homeless from a specific neighborhood. If there's no compassionate solution, how about arresting people for vagrancy, littering, defecating in public, etc., etc.? This other person put, I don't think it will work. If I tried not paying my property taxes, I'd lose my home. When in America, since the Boston Tea Party, has anyone gotten away without paying taxes? Oops, unless you're a politician. This person says it's not fair in quotes. Local merchant talking about the things that they have to do, cleaning up, replacing glass, etc. And he puts, yes, it is fair. You all wanted inclusion, tolerance, empathy, no cops. So, if you don't like it, load up your car, get on I-80 heading east, and don't stop until you're back in whatever state you came from. No, it's not fair as not all of them voted or wanted that. And to suggest they'd all just pack up and go is totally impractical and childish. It's not so easy to uproot yourself, especially when you have family, ties to the place, businesses that you've worked on for years, etc. Most hardworking middle class people can't afford the move. We need to encourage these people, not dismiss them. And this is more of like an empathetic response, basically, and I understand that, right? Because like I understand that people cannot just go and move. Like a lot of people cannot just go and move, like at the snap of the fingers, right? But staying in a location and doing nothing and trying to rely on people who have been doing nothing to change something that you need to deal with, but just thinking that, something's going to change even though you're not going to do anything about it is a bit foolish, right? It's basically like the way that I view it, this type of situation. Let's say that there is a trash can inside your room, right? Inside a room of your house that you're living in, right? And you see that trash can all the time. But there also just so happens to be like a window wide open where random critters just come in and, trash that trash can. Like go in there, tip over the trash can. You have to clean it up every single day, right? But by the way, you can't really close that window at all because, there's someone forcing that window open to stay open no matter what, right? Well, you need to find a solution to either block that window or block the animals from going through that window or find a way to literally close off that window somehow so that the trash can inside your house doesn't get messed with at all, right? Like you got to like deal with the problem that is right in front of you, right? Because you can't rely on someone else to fix the problem that's right in front of you, especially when they're not going to do anything or have been doing nothing at all for decades. Feel free to give your thoughts.